time to go fishing with soft plastics, and you've got to figure out how to do the proper rigging. Now, we're talking about Texas rigging for bass. Going to show you exactly the right hook to choose and how to rig it. We've got a handful of different soft plastics here. You're gonna be Texas rigging and fishing, you know, straight worms, creature baits like this here, creature baits that hold their own hands, and you're gonna have all kind of different soft plastics. So we're gonna go through and show you a few of the different basic techniques. Now, one of the things I want to show you, very popular rig, the Ned rig. That's not going to be something you're going to Texas rig. You're just going to fish it on a standard jig head like that. And then also a very, very popular rig called a Wacky Worm. Wacky Worm is not a Texas rig. All you're going to do is use an octopus style or a finesse style hook like that. And then you're just going to hook it through the middle, just like that. That's a Wacky rig. That's very basic. That's, you know, not necessarily what we're going to be talking about. We'll do, you know, longer, extensive videos on Wacky rigging later, but we're just going to be talking about Texas rigging. And I have a theory about which style hook to use. You know, like this is a EWG style hook right here, which I'll show you here in a minute. That's an EWG style. This here is called a hybrid worm hook because it's kind of a blend between an EWG style, extra wide gap is what EWG stands for, extra wide gap hook, and a standard round bed worm hook. It's kind of a cross between the two. A very good hook. I use it for a handful of different things. And then you've got, you know, what they call a straight shank hook. And this is the most commonly used when you're flipping and pitching because it's a straight shank. It's going to have the most bite when you set that hook. So as that hook's going to get pulled, that hook point is gonna reach out and dig. That hook point's gonna reach out and dig. That is the best way, the best hook to use. So we're gonna rig that one up first. So we're gonna start. The closer you're fishing, like if you're only fishing, you know, 20 to 30, 40 feet away from the boat, then this is probably the style hook you want. So Gamakatsu, heavy cover worm hook, and it's the one I use. There are other soft plastics, but you're going to take and start right in the middle of the worm with the straight shank. You're going to come out about a 1/4 inch down, and then you're going to slide it up. And now as you slide it up over that keeper, I like to turn my worm sideways, not like it's going to be rigged, but it's going to be sideways. So there's the hook, and it helps keep the slit that you make with that little teeny keeper. You're gonna keep that to a minimum, that hole that you make. So then you're gonna push that up against the back. You're gonna gauge it about how far you need it, pinch the worm up a little bit, poke it through, slide it back. So you want that worm, that bait to be hanging about as straight as possible. And I don't even like that. So I'm gonna pull it back, do it again. I'm gonna go down a little further. So I want that worm, that bait, this little baby D-bomb, I want that bait to be hanging as straight as possible, just like that. That's a little tungsten weight right above it. It's a Titan tungsten. And then I've got above that, I've got a little keeper on there. But that's basically how you rig any type of creature bait or even any straight worm that you're going to be flipping and pitching. Well, on that straight shank hook, that's how you're going to rig it, straight as possible. Got that there. We got a couple other rigs for you. We're going to go, and this is a bigger version. This is a 5/0. That was a 3/0 hook in that baby D-bomb. For most applications, this is a bigger version of the same bait, but it's going to go exactly the same way. I'll show you again. It's going to go right in the front. come down about 1/4 inch, and it's going to come out right past that first little rib. So this is solid portion, that's the first little rib. Come out right under there, get it up to that portion, turn it sideways again. Then I'm going to push it right over top there. See the little keeper is right up against there. I'm going to kind of measure it and try to keep it in the middle of the worm. And then you can see that thing's sitting pretty darn straight. And then that's how I'm going to rig it. And you can take it, put that on anywhere from 16 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. You can use mono, absolutely. If you're fishing around heavy vegetation, you can go 30 to 50 pound braid and pitch it and flip it around and absolutely have a ball. Reel up as much of your slack before you set the hook. That would be recommended. But here is the hybrid worm hook. This is probably what I'm going to be using more when I'm casting further away from the boat. We got a lighter weight on there, so if I'm fishing around areas that have a lot of grass, sparse grass that I want to fish it through and around, that's what I'll probably use a little lighter weight. But we're going to take this watermelon red core, beautiful looking color, so quiver 6.5. But any kind of straight worm that you like to use, you know, Cinco, trick worm, anything like that, this is how you're going to rig it. So you're going to start out the same way, go right down through the middle, come out about a little more than 1/4 inch on this hook, a little more than 1/4 inch, come out right there, slide it all the way up right there, and then you're going to kind of gauge it right there. That's about where I want to go in. And on this hook, you can do it 2 ways. You can go all the way through, just like that, and then take the hook point and just barely bury the hook point in there. That's called texposing. That's what they call that. I don't know why they call it texposing. It's a Texas rig. It's not, this would be exposed to where the hook point is just out. And then if you just take and pinch up a little bit, just enough to hide that hook point so that you're not catching on everything, that's called texposing. And that is one way that you can fish it. Is if you're fishing a lighter line, you may want to texpose it so you can get a little better hook set. But that's it. If I'm fishing a little heavier cover, I'll go back, and before that hook point comes out, I'll start turning the worm, and it makes it a little harder to keep it straight on the hook, on the worm there. But now it's buried, but if I push down a little bit, I can just feel that hook point. If you're fishing around real heavy cover, that would be exactly how you would do it. And that's that Gamakatsu G Finesse hybrid worm hook. Love that hook. Does a really good job when you're casting further away from the boat. Like that bad boy right there. And then one other, last but not least, this is it's what's called the Tokyo rig. Been a lot of talk about it. And that's the Tokyo rig. That's the EWG style hook that I was talking about. This is, but you can pitch and flip the Tokyo rig. You can also cast it. I've caught fish making unbelievably long bomb casts with it. But we're just going to take and do kind of the same way. But this one, you're really going to texpose. That's really the best way to do it here. And on the Tokyo rig, I either throw a straight worm like that quiver that we just saw, or I'll take a little small creature bait like a baby destroyer here. I'm going to go, go right in, start right in the tip there, but I'm going to pull it back so it's no more than 1/4 inch. I mean, just the head of that worm is going to be threaded on there. I'm going to go all the way up there, and then I'm going to measure again, go right through the middle of the worm, so you can see that there. And then I'm just gonna Just gonna bury that tip so it'll come through the cover. And then just so you know, the Tokyo rig, it's got a swivel and then a solid ring. The EWG style hook is on that. Then there's another swivel looking apparatus down to a metal rod. You slide your weights on there, then you can bend the end of it, and that thing comes through cover really, really well. It's good for rock and grass, and fishing around muddy bottoms, things like that. It's almost like a little shortened power drop shot, but it's not. But it's totally different than a drop shot. But that's how you rig the Tokyo rig, which is almost like a type of Texas rig, similarly. But then you're going to tie to the little swivel that I'm holding right here, and then the bait can freely swing around and have a good action, even if you're fishing it on 20 or 25 pound test, whatever you want. But that's how you're gonna Texas rig all these soft plastics. Those are the main techniques. If anybody has any more questions or want to see any more demonstrations on how to rig anything, drop it down there in the comments. I'll be glad to answer any of your questions and try to get to your videos before too long. Help educate everybody out there. If you have any other comments you wanna drop down, I'll be sure to interact with you as much as possible. But I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.